welcome to another edition of the Chuck Shoot Podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see I'm kind of playing around with my background a little bit, trying to get a little better. I think the picture's crooked, but we'll get there someday. And of course, you all knew this had to happen eventually. I've had on former Enuff Z'Nuff singer Donnie V on the show twice, and it's cool to finally have his other half, Chip Z'Nuff, the bass player, co-songwriter of the band, and now he's also the singer and frontman of the band. So I think he does a great job. I've seen them live with Chip singing twice, and it sounded great. The band's latest album, The Brainwash Generation, is great, and even features Donnie V on a track, Strangers in My Head, I believe it's called. And for this interview with Chip, we had a limited time, so I just tried to cram in as many good questions as I could. I think we covered a lot of ground. Chip was very open, had some great stories, and I really enjoyed our chat. So here it is. Please welcome Chip Z'Nuff to the Chuck Shoot Podcast. How you doing?
Those are fans. I'm simulating fans right there.
Yes, okay, yes. There's tons of fans.
Chucky, I'm glad you're doing well. I've been staying very busy here, getting ready for this next Enuff Z'Nuff Faster Pussycat tour that's coming out in a few weeks. So,
okay,
a lot of work happening.
What were you recording? Are you recording more Enuff Z'Nuff stuff?
I certainly am.
Wow.
You can't stop, okay? Luck is the resin of design. I think it's the best thing to do is all us musicians is try to stay as busy as possible, making music. And I'm in the studio here in lovely Blue Island, Illinois. I got a nice little Pro Tools setup, and I got 2-inch tape and run a snake up to the first floor. I got a bunch of outboard gear, and so it's back to 1970s at my studio, just making real records with musicians that can play.
That's awesome. Yeah, so this is interesting because I did my research. I had no idea that you almost became a baseball player. Your grandfather played on the White Sox, and you tried out for a bunch of major league teams. But it's cool because you took that template of like playing baseball and like that work ethic, and you use that to start a rock band. So explain that to me, because it sounds like you're still got a really good work ethic, and you just released a new album and you're already working on another one. That's crazy.
Yeah, I'm not the hardest work guy out there. I see these other musicians, and when they're not doing their own records, they're doing records for other people. And I pretty much follow the same template. I like making music and being creative, and if I can help bands out, that's a great thing. And I play for myself too. It's serendipity. It's like a moment of clarity. And you get out there and you come up with something creative, and it lasts forever. And, at least I hope it does. More than anything, though, I just want to make good records. And from the early days of playing sports, I took that template, the good side of it, not the bad side, and was able to withstand the punishment this business gives you, which is, trying to find work and staying as relevant as you can. And there's a lot of great bands out there. So what did little Steven say to me? I always bring this up. If I can quote him, he says, Chip, if you leave just a small indelible mark, it's a good thing. I think at the end of the day, I've made some good music, and I like to believe there's still gas in the tank.
Yeah. So tell me about this too. So before you put together Enuff Z'Nuff, you answered an ad in the paper was it Desi Rexx from Demal's, and you went on tour with him. That wasn't the band Demal's, was it? Was that something else?
No. I go back with those cats a long way. We all went to the same high schools together. Although I went to Brother Rice, I think they went to Eisenhower, which they kicked me out of there when I was a young kid, and that was for a good reason. Okay, and so when Desi got a hold of me, they're looking for a bass player. They hired me and a guy named Bill Bishop, who I think was playing with Richard Marx. He's a heavyweight drummer. This guy's solid as a rock. And we auditioned for Desi's band right when I got back from Los Angeles, which was right when I had a stint for about 2.5 years with a band called Degeneration. Made a record, never was released. Great band, though. Not to be confused.
Not the New York one, right? Yeah.
In New York. And I think it's just that I found myself, trying to find a gig, and Desi hired us. We had to learn 60 songs in 2 days. And my first gig was opening for the Babies. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And I think it was in Des Moines, Iowa. Oh, it was packed. It was back in those days, in the early days, folks, there was so many people that would attend shows on Monday through Friday. It's unbelievable. Unlike today, everybody wants just the weekends. That's what trips their trigger, and they work their asses off all week. So I understand it.
Right.
But back in the old days, people found time to go see bands during the week. And I happened to be playing on a Monday at a place called The Other Place. Babies came into town. They were on tour with Alice Cooper. they said, hey, Missing You by the Rolling Stones. I said, yeah, I certainly do. And they go, great, we played it. And they go, Money by the Beatles? I go, absolutely, played that one. That was my first time on stage with heavyweights playing music.
Well, didn't you open for Boz Scaggs with the Degeneration?
That was, yeah, we did early stuff when we were young kids with Boz Scaggs and the Grateful Dead playing like festival gigs. Anything our manager, Bill Norvis, who managed a bunch of people from the one of those TV shows from a long time ago with I can't think of it, Hollywood Squares.
Oh, okay.
We paid him $200 a week to manage us, and we didn't pay him. We had no money. Our day-to-day manager paid the bill and put us on some good gigs. But we opened for Van Halen too. We opened for tons of bands before they were big.
Oh.
We're talking 1976, 77. I was a young kid.
Oh, that's crazy.
We travel around in a little bread truck. I lived at what Degeneration that is. I lived with somebody that had a newspaper out there called Las Vegas Mirror, and my singer and guitar player made friends with their daughters, and they moved us into their little mansion. We had a pool, pit bull dog every day,
nice,
and a couple of bottles of LSD 25 that you just put on a matchbook and you'd eat it and you'd be hired to sin all day.
Oh,
it was a crazy life in those early days, I'll tell you. But when I went out with Desi, that was just a little short run. We just we played places 6 nights a week. We had a bread truck. My father kept it together and fixed it all up and tweaked it out so we can make it around the country. And we just toured around the United States playing gigs, basically doing top 40 songs. That's how I learned how to write tunes. That kind of hanging out with those kind of cats, and it was 6 sets a night, 6 nights a week for $125 a week. That's a real musician right there.
Yeah.
We did that for a couple of years. And then when the band went its opposite direction, then I put together Enuff Z'Nuff.
Yeah. So you put together Enuff Z'Nuff and you guys are playing, you're struggling. And then this is like, it sounds like you had a little bit of luck along the way. Like you said, this guy let you live in the mansion for a little bit. And this police officer just comes up to you after a show one night and offers to give you $500 to record a record. I mean, you didn't know this guy. He just a fan.
Yeah. His name was Lieutenant Bob Erft. Haven't seen him in years. I'd like to give him a hug, and I don't have $500 right now to give him.
Right.
What a wonderful cat that we told him all the things that we were going through as a band. We're here in Blue Island. There's not a lot of action out here. Maybe 15,000 people now. Used to be all kinds of places open, like hospitals and movie theaters. They're all shut down. But it's good people, hardworking people out here. And for some reason, Bob just was sympathetic to our cause.
That's amazing because cops don't make that much to begin with. So $500 is a lot for a cop, especially back then. So you take that demo and you sneak backstage at a Cheap Trick concert and you give it to Rick Nielsen and you ask him to produce your album, but you never heard back from him.
No, I've heard back from him since then. We smoked plenty of joints together, and he's playing on Enuff Z'Nuff albums with us.
Right. Do you ever tell him that story?
Of course, he knows about it. He does. I think he told me I was a liar when I started bringing it up to him. But it's the truth. And I remember they played. I remember that during the set, Rick sang a song called "Suck It." That was in the Cheap Trick set a lot. It was an old tune they used to do years ago to give Rob and Xander a small little break. But the band was fabulous that night. And listen, Rick was busy. He's got other things going on in his life. Cheap Trick was very successful. They were touring around the country with everybody, so he probably didn't have time. But I remember telling Derek Shulman, the president of Atco Records, who used the former singer of Gentle Giant, when he asked me who we wanted to produce the record, we said, well, we gave our demo to Rick Nielsen. We asked him, we haven't heard anything back. He says, has he called you? I said, no. He goes, well, you guys do it yourself, because he loved the demos. So our trajectory could have been much different having Nielsen produce that first Enuff Z'Nuff album, but it worked out the way it did work out. And later on, having Rick just play on the records is a blessing in disguise for all of us. So I'm totally happy with it. But man, I wouldn't mind hearing Rick Nielsen or a Jack Douglas produce Enuff Z'Nuff album.
That would be cool. But so back before the album came out, didn't the record company, I never heard this story. They wanted to change the name Enuff Z'Nuff. Some of the choices were Trick or Treat, School Days, or what was it, Flies on Fire or something like that?
That's correct. They did want to do that, and we were devastated. I don't know if the band was, but I certainly was, because we did a lot of hard inroads here in the Midwest, and we knew that tens of thousands of people like us. But Derek Shulman came back to me and says, Chip, when I'm through with you, millions of people are going to know who you are. And I said, I didn't want to argue with that. So I went home, and I was my tail between my legs, and the band was happy because we had a record deal. We were making an album out in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin, at Royal Recorders. We're surrounding ourselves with good people, all the guys in Skid Row and Adrian Ballou and the Bears and Tapao and Survivor and Cheap Trick. Everybody was recording over there. So we thought, we're in good company. Let's not ruffle the feathers of these peacocks. But then the next morning, early in the morning, my phone rang. I picked it up and it was Derek Showman. He says, "You win," and hung up the phone.
So what changed? That's so weird.
I don't know. He just liked the name of the band. I guess maybe they talked about changing the spelling of it or whatever, whatever you may think. I don't know those in betweens. I just know that he's seen that we were hustlers and he knew how passionate we were about the band. And when I told him I'd be willing to sell my soul to the devil and change my name, I think that maybe made a little dent in his impression on what Enuff Z'Nuff was going to be. And I'm glad he kept it because might not be the coolest name out there, but it's certainly it's unique. I
think Trick or Treat would have been a step down for sure. I thought it would have made me think it's like a Halloween band or something. That would have been confusing.
And Donnie embraced Trick or Treat. He actually said, he goes, "It's gonna be a party every single day, like Halloween. People will come out." And I thought, it takes away from the seriousness of the songs we were writing because our influences are from across the pond. And then to be putting a record out, even when the first album kit was coming out, it was a picture of us in a dilapidated hotel room shot by this guy named Tony Diorio, a wonderful photographer here in Chicago who shot a lot of the bands. And we wrecked the hotel. It cost us $20,000 for pictures and everything. And when it was all said and done, it just showed a band that has propensity to get in trouble at any single moment. Very promiscuous shots. That's, scantily clad. I'm in a bathtub holding a bottle of Jack Daniels, which I never do, which is fine if you want to do that. I'm a fan. I like partying too, but that wasn't my image of what I wanted to portray. I thought the music said a lot more than that picture did, and so did Doc McGee, because he said, "Don't use that album cover. Don't use that picture, that 8x10 that Atco's shot of you cats out in Chicago." He goes, "Why don't you just use this?" And he pointed to Donnie's arm with a little peace sign, and he goes, "Now that looks good and it means good things." And the trajectory of the image of Enuff Z'Nuff changed that day. Not in the videos, because the videos, you want to get an MTV back then, you had to be colorful and flamboyant and glitter rock, because all that other stuff was already out there. Perhaps if Enuff Z'Nuff would have came out in the early days and just had jeans and T-shirts, we'd be like a U2. But we didn't. And because of our colorfulness and flamboyant style, MTV embraced that, and those videos were hits.
So was that more the band's idea to be colorful and flamboyant, or the record company, or both? Or?
No, we were always like that. We always dressed like that. We were stealing stuff out of our moms and sisters' closets in the earliest days out there. Look at me I'm dressed right now. I got this from Danny from Faster Pussycats. A beautiful, I don't know what you would call it, but it looks really good.
A feather,
it's purple. I'm in a purple
hat. I don't know.
It's a hat for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm colorful, flamboyant, purple today. And sometimes age doesn't have a number. So I'm just happy that we're out there and we can make records of music and dress up every single day, because that's a big part of our style from the very beginning. And we've never swayed from that. A lot of the earlier bands like the Panteras and the Motley Crues and the Metallicas, they were smart. They got out of it quickly, cut their hair. Wore regular clothes, and they knew how to go with the style. That's one thing that we miss, but we are what we are. Even Bowie's changed. It's okay to be a chameleon in this day and age. And some cats, you're not recognized if you change your ways. So I think I'm proud of our strut and I admire it. And that's it. At the end of the day, I don't make any excuses.
Yeah. I mean, I love all you guys that make so much good music. It's so underrated, and we could talk all day about that. But so those first two records, I think they did pretty well. And then by the third record, obviously the music scene had changed, but I always wondered about this, because I remember reading about this in Metal Edge with Animals with Human Intelligence. Vikki Foxx, he bolts to join Vince Neil's band. What was were you guys mad at Vince, or were you mad at Vikki, or both? Or because you airbrushed him out of the pictures and stuff? I mean, I'm sure this is all ancient history, but I always wondered. And so I've always wanted to, now I have the chance to interview and ask you about it.
No, we weren't mad at him. We were disappointed. How's that?
Okay.
See, Vic looked at Motley Crue like we look at the Beatles or Queen. So I get it.
Yeah.
He had a wonderful opportunity right there. He just got a payday from the Animals of Human Intelligence record. Clyde was very generous to us. Everybody wet their beak. We were all happy that we're going to make a record and have a budget. And it was just in his best interest, he thought, to just go out and play with Vince and Steve Stevens, two fabulous musicians, and with a great record deal and a lot of history. You can't be mad about something like that. Disappointed for sure.
Yeah.
We went through about 250 VHS tapes looking for the next drummer to replace him because
Really?
that guy, when he left, he stole the show too because he was really fabulous on stage as well. Didn't write the songs and never claimed to be that, but he was a fabulous drummer who brought a great show every single night and was my roommate for all those years at Enuff Z'Nuff. And we're both Virgo brothers, so I was happy that he was with the band. And when he sashayed, of course, there was disappointment, but we ended up hiring Ricky Parent, and he was a great, he looked like Nicolas Cage from the 30th row. So we got a good looking, handsome guy to come in there and play the shows, who was solid as a rock on drums. He did a bunch of stuff earlier with Alice Cooper and some earlier projects. So he had a little bit of a name for himself. And even though it hurt us, it was a sting. We weren't cantankerous about it. We weren't jealous at all because we always thought Enuff Z'Nuff had better songs than those bands. I will say, though, when he did sashay, the record company that was their call, it was Clive Davis who had him brushed from the album cover.
Oh, okay.
We liked his look and we liked being 4-piece, but it was Arista that said to my manager at the time, Herbie Herbert and Bob Brigham, we're not putting anybody on the cover that's not in the band.
Oh, okay. That's fair.
It had nothing to do with us whatsoever.
Okay, that makes sense. So you guys can.
And we went right off on tour immediately after that. As soon as that record came out, we did it with. By the way, we did it with Def Leppard's engineer, producer, a guy named Nigel Green. So when the record was finished, it was solid as a rock. We were ready to go, but we were already in trouble right there, bro, because there was a change of the guard at that time. You had Pearl Jam, Soundgarden, Alice in Chains, Mudhoney, Nirvana, all that whole Seattle thing came in with everybody wearing shorts and combat boots and flannels. And if you were a band like us that came from the flamboyant, colorful glitter rock era, you were in big trouble. And most of those bands went away, which rightly so. Maybe that's the case. It should have been. They just didn't have what it takes. But look at me. Here I am now, 15, 16, 20 years later, and we're still putting records out on a major label, Frontiers.
Yeah.
And still making music and still touring around the country.
No, yeah.
It's I'm a miracle right now. I'm not bragging about where I'm at as a musician. I'm just saying it's a miracle that a guy like me can still be going strong and putting music out there and doing movies, soundtracks, TV shows, commercials, whatever it takes, just trying to stay busy in this day and age where there's too much product and not enough demand.
Yeah, for sure. And you kept making music. And like you said, the change of the guard, the alternative bands. But so in 99, you do that Paraphernalia album and you get Rick Nielsen, by the way, but also Billy Corgan. He's a fan of your band. He's got the CD strength in the car. You met him at a funeral. Is that right?
Yeah. Jim Ellison from Material Issue passed away. We all showed up at the wake. There was 1,000 musicians that were there.
Oh,
wonderful band, Material Issue. I think they have a movie or a discography that's coming out pretty soon. If you get a chance, check it out. Material Issue, fabulous band. And I play on their last record along with Rick Nielsen and Gilby Clarke. And from there, we got to be really good friends, and we did a project called The Wild One, the Wild Bunch, with Clem Burke from Blondie was in it, along with Wayne Kramer from MC5. The late great Pat D'Annunzio was a singer in it, along with myself. Gilby, of course, in the band. And it's really a strong band. We toured around the country, got to be great friends there. I wish Billy was on that, but I happened to see Billy over at the Metro, and I asked him if he wanted to sit in on the record. I told him we did a cover of Everything Works If You Let It by Cheap Trick, and his exact words were, "Chip, that's my favorite Cheap Trick song ever. They've ever released out of all the material." And he goes, "What are you doing?" I said, "Over at Chicago Recording Company." And Billy was kind enough to come on, but I didn't ask for any money or nothing. He goes, "That's Show me the riff," because he didn't know the riff. He knew the song, didn't know the riff. So I showed him the riff real quick on guitar. Then he went and played on it. And then I had another song called "Got No Place to Go." And I got him to actually hit a couple of guitar chords for the verse and the chorus of it. And he goes, "I'm done," and took the guitar off and put it down, but I just Pro Tooled the rest of it. So I got Corgan actually on 2 Enuff Z'Nuff songs.
Oh,
Got No Place
smart.
to Go and Everything Works If You Let It. And a fabulous player and then after I got him, I called James Young from Styx, who's a very good friend of mine. I've known for 30 years. And I said, "Would you be willing to come down and play? I don't have a big budget." He goes, "Doesn't matter. I'll come down." He ended up playing solos on a couple of songs as well. So we got 3 heavyweights to come down there and play on that Enuff Z'Nuff album, thinking that, well, we got great friends that are contributing on the record, but maybe it'll help elevate our perception as a band as well. And then I was seeing the interview in Spin Magazine that said, "Enuff Z'Nuff made another great record, but will it be enough to lift the black cloud that follows this band?" And I go, that journalist knows who we are, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Nailed it. Well, but I'm proud of the record, Paraphernalia, and it's done very well for us.
Yeah. And then your newest album, Brainwash Generation, you got good guests on that one too. Ace Frehley and Mike Portnoy. And then Donnie V comes back. That's really cool. And he's been on my show twice. Love him. Is there any plans to do anything more with him? Like, I know he doesn't want to tour, but maybe like a one-off show or more recording, or would you have Vikki Foxx come in and like the three of you just do like one show or something?
Well, you know what? We were asked about 3 or 4 years ago to get the original band back together, which would only be Fox, myself, and Donnie, because Derek is not with us right now. And Gino Martino was actually the original guitar player, but he's in Wisconsin right now, retired. He's rich. If you pushed him up his wall, he'd break his neck 3 times. So you don't hear from him. So we were asked about it, and they said, well, you can, there's other guys in Enuff Z'Nuff that you've had in the past. Perhaps you want to explore that. And it was a great payday. And then we thought about it, and I called Vic Foxx on the phone. I talked to Donnie too, but I called Vic Foxx on the phone, and Fox wasn't into it. You know, he's like, you know what? That's a lot of work right there to do a show in front of 50,000 people. As much as I'd love to do it, you know, we're going to need a month of rehearsals to go through the songs and lock them down. And I'm not sure I'm ready to walk that plank. So, you know, maybe we could have had it done. Whatever happens, who knows? I know Donnie will do some more recording with me. We're fine, him and I. The last I've talked to him, he said, yeah, he's going to send me another track. I just played on his last song. I did the video as well called Party. And
Party Time. Yeah, I want to see that. I've been waiting for that for months.
Really good. Yeah, he's got the guy from Jellyfish on there too, Roger Manning.
Okay.
He's got wonderful players on the record. Perhaps we'll cross that path again and we can do some stuff because I love working with him.
Yeah.
Love his pipes. He's one of my favorites in the world.
Yeah.
Right now, he's doing a solo record. And right now, I'm focusing on the 3 records that I'm working on right now, which is besides producing, I'm producing a band called the Midnight Devils right now for.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of them.
For Pavement Records.
Okay.
But when I finish that, I have a Beatle song, the Beatle record that's coming out called Hard Rock Night. Enuff Z'Nuff Hard Rock Night, which is on Frontiers record. It comes out in October of this year. And then I have a solo record that I'm just finishing up right now. I'm not going to give you any title or anything, but I got some heavyweights playing on that as well. Another 11-song record. And then a new Enuff Z'Nuff for 2022.
Okay. Yeah, I was
just a couple of things. I don't want to overpopulate it. You know, one thing at a time. We just put a record out in July of last year with Brainwash Generation with Portnoy on there and those heavyweights, Dax Nielsen from Cheap Trick. I love that record. I think it's a solid rock record that fits in our discography quite nicely.
I love your solo record too. I was listening to that last night. My girlfriend was like, what is this? I really like this. I go, yeah, it's actually Chip's solo record. It's like, it is a little bit of a departure from Enuff Z'Nuff, but I love it. Yeah, it's really good stuff. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to
I think that, thank you very much. I appreciate your
What do you call it? Stoner rock?
Solo record. Yeah, stoner rock record. Yeah. When I did that album, I was it was down in the south side of Chicago. And there was a studio called Star Trek. A guy named Jeff Louvre ran the place. And there was only 2 bands that were in there every day and night. It was Twista, the rap guy, and Enuff Z'Nuff. We got along great too. I played on at least 30 songs for Twista. I'm not credited on the records. It says thanks, Chip. That's all it says. It doesn't say what I played, but I play guitar, played bass, sang, played on a lot of Twista stuff during that time. Believe it or not, people don't know it.
Yeah.
But later on, I got more hip hop work out of it. You know.
Oh, that's cool.
Bands like Kanye West and Malik Yosef. So while we're in the studio there, it was just those 2 bands really. And the other cats would come in here to bring their material. But for the most part, we're just making a record. I know Donnie wanted to be a part of the solo record, but when he did his solo record, I played on that as well. So I thought, man, it might be a good idea, but I wanted something totally different. I didn't want to make it sound like Enuff Z'Nuff. I just wanted a nice stoner rock record, songs about what was happening in the world today around us. You know, there was plenty of subject matter to write about. And I had a bunch of friends come by the studio to hang out with us on the south side of Chicago. And everybody came by with gifts. You know, I was smoking pot and drinking in the studio. We were there till 6 o'clock in the morning. And it really was a creative environment for that time. And I was able to find my voice and be able to record those songs quite quickly. Everything on 2-inch, by the way, is all on 2-inch. No Pro Tools on that record at all. So it was quite challenging for us. But at the end of the record, we finished it up and we took it over to get mixed. And we said, you know, we got something special that's right here. And then I went to Cleopatra and they said, why don't you add some songs that you did with Steven Adler from Guns N' Roses?
And Slash too, right?
Yeah, and Slash. And then who else? Yeah,
Dale Bosio.
We had Dale from Missing Persons on there. We also had, of course, Robin Zander from Cheap Trick.
Yeah.
And Cleopatra was the ones that were the catalyst there. They said, well, we were calling the record. The name of the band was Johnny Rotten Jr. And the record company said, no, we got to call it Chip Z'Nuff. You know, I'm like, oh, that's my dad said as well. And they said, well, your dad's pretty smart. So he ended up putting those 5 songs that I did with Steven Adler on the record as well. So it was a nice 15-song solo piece with all those musicians playing on it. It's a really fun record to listen to. It's a great record to have sex to, and it's a wonderful record to get high with as well.
Yeah.
But if you don't do either of those things, at the end of the day, it's alternative before alternative.
Yeah, no, it's great. And so speaking of Adler and Slash, this is cool. You played in Adler's Appetite. I think I actually saw you come by here, but there was a show that you did where it was Steven Adler, Duff, Izzy, and Gilby. Slash was there but didn't get up on stage. That's pretty much the whole band except Axl. What was that like?
It was incredible hanging out with those guys back there, and they were all charming beyond belief. No one had rock star attitude, and there was probably 100 people backstage just shooting the crap and talking about the show. And I knew that Slash wasn't going to come up because he's a professional. He goes, let the other guys come up and celebrate the Guns N' Roses 20th anniversary. We've already rehearsed it a couple of times before the Key Club performance.
But was he in the audience? Like, is he getting mobbed? I mean, he's Slash. Everyone
he was backstage hanging out with all the journalists and all the people and the fans that were there and friends that were friends of all those bands. And then during the performance, he was on the side of the stage watching me kicking ass playing those Guns N' Roses songs. Okay. And it was good. The band sounded good.
Yeah, no, you guys, I loved that version of Adler's Appetite.
And Duff and Izzy were kind enough to let me come up and play on those songs. Listen, they didn't have to do that. Those guys are pros, and they heard the rehearsals, and the band sounded as solid as a rock. And I said, okay, let's just keep it like this.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was great. And the only reason Slash didn't do it was he just didn't want to ruffle Axl's feathers, and he was smart not to do it because look what happened years later. They all got back together. I didn't see Gilby Clarke getting on stage too, and Gilby's a big part of that band, and for a part of that era.
Yeah. And
he didn't get up on stage and play as well. He just hung out with Slash.
Oh, okay.
Just talked on the side of the stage. And now if Izzy, if Axl would have shown up at the gig, of course I would have got off stage, and so would the other guys. And we would let those guys do it because it was the 20th anniversary. That was the celebration. That's why the place was completely packed and sold out.
Yeah.
No other reason than that. So it was good. Nice that those guys came out there and supported Steven. They've always been good to Steven all through his career, even with me, the 8 years I played in the Adler's Appetite. Those guys have always checked up on him, and they watch over him and give him great advice. And those guys are real brothers. They should be. They made great music together, and they made even more money.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, they're all legends. Speaking of legends, obviously one of your biggest fans, Howard Stern. I love Howard Stern. He's a big influence on me. What is it? You've done his show many times. What is it like to be interviewed by Howard Stern?
It's like talking to a brother. He tells the truth, and there's no handcuffs on him. That guy's very transparent, and he doesn't want a liar. Okay. A liar's biggest fear is somebody with a great memory. And he just loves when you come in here and you tell the truth about everything. And I watch all the shows I've done, whether with Enuff Z'Nuff, doing stuff with Donnie, or just going in there by myself, or maybe perhaps a couple of things I do on the TV show with Steven Adler. And it's always guys hanging out together in the front room or at the bar and just talking. And there's no rules. And that's what I love about him. And he's very astute. He knows about songs, knows the history of bands, and not just my band, for tons of bands. That's what he does for a living. He's a fan before he is a star.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's awesome. And another fan, I don't know if you remember this, but you did a show at the Whiskey A Go-Go. It was the first time I ever got to go to the Whiskey. It was just a few years ago. And I think you said that Matt Bellamy of Muse was in the audience, and I was running around looking for him because I want to meet Matt Bellamy. I have a friend who's a giant Muse fan. I'm a big Muse fan. Do you have interactions with him, or was he just kind of a closet fan? Or
nope, just a fan. Like a lot of the rock stars that are out there, you listen. No matter who the band is, if they've been together for 25 years, I give them a nod, even if I'm not a fan of the music. And you'd be surprised at Enuff Z'Nuff's music how many people it's reached. Those guys in Foo Fighters hail us beyond belief. Taylor Hawkins, he joined the band right now if I asked him to. There's a ton of a ton of musicians out there that have always grabbed onto what we do, and they respect our legacy, and it's a great feeling. And I give the same love back to those cats as well. And as a matter of fact, on that night, I do remember that whiskey night with Matt, and he sashayed immediately after I mentioned his name.
That's what it was. Damn it. Yeah, because I ran looking for him. I was like, where is he? And Johnny Rotten of the Sex Pistols. I mean, we could go on and on how many people are fans and how many. What is your favorite story of interaction with somebody, a fan, that somebody that blew your mind, that maybe was one of your heroes that told you that they were a fan? Or
There's too many to mention. I got to tell you, all the musicians that I meet, Steven Tyler, they were playing Chicago, and he told Donnie and I, he says, man, get that record happening. You guys, I'll bring you out on tour with us. And Megadeth was playing at the time. I heard him in the background playing. I'm like, he'd rather have us than Megadeth. That's pretty cool.
Wow.
Some of these guys have their own taste. Cheap Trick, love touring, Def Leppard. There's so many great guys that I've hung out with and done things that it'd be a anomaly for me to come out and just say, well, one day I smoked a joint with so-and-so. Nobody, maybe some people want to hear about it. There might be a few, but for the most part,
I want to hear about it.
There's so many great musicians. One of my favorite stories, it's not a great story, but it's good for me. It's good for my soul, is we were playing out in Texas, Enuff Z'Nuff on the first tour, and Johnny Rotten showed up at the show, and he was at the bar, and my manager, Bob Brigham, our day-to-day guy, said, hey, Johnny Rotten's here. I go, bro, can you bring him back? He goes, I'll see what I can do. And he came back. He says, yeah, he'll come. Maybe we can meet him after the show. I go, great. And by the second song, I think we were playing Kiss the Clown, huge fight at the bar. It was Johnny Rotten, a bunch of guys fist fighting, or they all got thrown out there. So didn't get a chance to talk to them and hang out with them. But it's cool when you see these guys out there and they're coming out and support. And I like to go see my favorite bands. I'm a fan before anything else. So
that's
all. Shows everywhere, but it doesn't matter who it is. And sometimes you get the passes and you hang out and you go in the catering and you get a chance to say hi to a couple of your favorite buddies that you grow up to love. But for the most part, it's just about the experience going to see the shows. And
sure,
if you know those guys out in the crowd, it definitely a nice boost to all of our egos. That's for sure.
That's really cool. Yeah. So what about, you're a huge Beatles fan. Have you ever had any interactions with any of the Beatles?
No, I haven't. I went backstage with Donnie to go where we were. I think it was in Los Angeles at the big place they have all the concerts, and McCartney's band was playing. And right after the show, we went backstage. It was Donnie and myself and the management company, and Chevy Chase was out there. We were sharing cigarettes with him, and the guys from Stray Cats were there, and Blondie. And just, it was just a nice, cool hang. And everybody wanted to meet McCartney. And then his manager came out of the room after about 5 minutes of all of us congregating by his door, and said, hey, guys, Paul's tired right now, but he thanks everyone for coming out to the show. See you next time. That's as close as I got to the Beatles. Although I should say I met Ringo, and it was a quick little hello, and we shook hands, and I got a chance to tell him how much I dig him and peace and love. So, but as far as like Lennon or McCartney sitting in a room with those cats, of course it would be great. Yeah. But I go to my friends, like for instance, in Foreigner, Mick Jones, he sat with me all night in a hotel room with beautiful trim after a big concert we did with Foreigner. 100,000 people showed up. Foreigner, Enuff Z'Nuff, who was it? Billy Squire, and the Fix, and Alice Cooper. And after the show, he came back to my hotel. And we hung out till 6 a.m. with just some beautiful talent. And we were doing other things too that are unprintable. and he was telling me stories. He goes, how I learned how to write songs? I said, no. He says, I hung out with the Beatles for 6 months in the studio. Not many people were allowed in those quarters back then. Mm-hmm. With George Martin and all those heavyweights. And there's Mick Jones hanging out with those guys, smoking pot, watching them be creative and come up with all those fantastic, timeless songs. And that's how Foreigner learned how to write tunes. And he's a great writer. So sometimes it's stories from other people are much more exciting than the ones that would come from my mouth. For sure. Well, yeah. So, there is like a long drug history with Enuff Z'Nuff. What is your stance on that stuff now? Because a lot of the musicians I talk to, they go totally sober. Do you slow down, or do you cut back as you get older, or what's your? There's a long history with all the bands, okay?
Yeah, no, I know.
I don't know any bands that are, maybe there's a couple of bands that like Milk and Cookies that are out there right now, where I see certain groups where I look at their rider and it says fruit roll-ups, 2% milk, and famous Amos cookies. You go, these guys aren't doing any drugs for sure. But we've all experimented. There's nothing wrong with that. You come up with some great songs. And what I worry about is when you stop doing them, will the songs continue to come your way? That's it. The old John Lennon adage where he says, all the great songs have already been written, and it's up to us to find them and bring them down to you. That's a tough task right there, because once you forget about writing songs, then you got to go find them somewhere else. And there's some artists out there that are very good at sniffing through and looking through the cracks and finding the great song to turn all the fans onto. But we all want to write them ourselves. And, obviously we all nick stuff from each other too, as well. But it's really special when you hear a band come out with something that's new and fresh and innovative.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this has been so much fun. I thank you so much. I know you got to get going. So I like to end with a charity, just a quick shout out. Is there a charity that you like to support or you want people to know about?
Yeah, it's about 3 weeks ago. Thanks for asking that. I appreciate it, bro. And it's wonderful being on your program.
Thank you.
I did a benefit for St. Jude's Hospital about 3 weeks ago.
Okay.
And Enuff Z'Nuff played outside. And it was Enuff Z'Nuff with Steve Ramone, Joey Ramone's nephew, playing guitar with us. And we did a whole set, hour and a half show outside in like on the street with hundreds of people out there just watching. And we generated $37,000 for that.
Dang.
And one of the kids there was able to get himself a nice little wheelchair.
Aww.
Really good people, a guy named Elliot, a lot of good people that were there that day. So anything I do, it's always a shout to St. Jude's Hospital because they take care of all the kids. They don't charge families one penny. One of the greatest gifts that we ever offered to us here in North America, St. Jude's Hospital. That's where I donate. Okay.
Yeah. I'll put that in the notes along with your website and all your social media links and all that stuff. So, and then people can follow you to look forward to, sounds like you got a lot of stuff on the horizon.
Yeah, Chuck, you can follow me. I'm also on Dash Radio every single week. I'm on 6 days a week.
Is that the show with Mancow or is that a different show?
No, Mancow was on the show. He was my guest for about a month, which is very nice of him to participate in the Dash Radio Network. Is a big fan of Mancow's as well. He was on for about a month. He did a shows with me, but I've been on for the last 2.5 years. My show's called Monsters of Rock. It's on channel 502. Okay. 6 days a week. And Claudia and Michelle and Harlan, along with the great Rudy Sarzo, all have their own programs. If you go to Dash, you can find Snoop Dogg's radio show along with Be Real from Cypress Hill and Kylie Jenner from the Kardashians. Boy, she's pretty good looking by herself, I tell you.
Well, that was a very tame way to say that. Yeah. Yeah,
she just really good clients over at Dash Radio. Nice family of people. And it's a celebration of hip hop, rock, and metal 24/7, 365 days of the year. My program is just hard rock and heavy metal. By the way, the guitar player, Doug from the Dead Daisies, has his own show on every Wednesday right after my program, too.
Doug Aldrich, is that his name?
Yeah, so Doug Aldridge will be on there. You want to check out dashradio.com, Monsters of Rock. It's satellite radio and it's free, folks.
Oh,
33 million subscribers.
Wow, that's cool. Awesome. And then are you still doing the rock and roll fantasy camp thing too, or is that over?
Yeah, I'll do the fantasy camp. I just talked to David Fishoff a couple days ago, who was the old manager of the Monkees. He's the president of Rock and Roll, CEO of Rock and Roll Fantasy Camp. And he's going to have me on there December 2nd through the 6th with special guest will be Joe Perry from Aerosmith. So that'll be great.
Oh,
a lot of people will go down there. You just go check out rockandrollfantasycamp.com and get all the information. There's a lot of good guys that are going to be on there. I love being on any of those shows. I hung out with Slash, Stone Temple Pilots, Alice in Chains, Cheap Trick, Blue Oyster Cult, a plethora of great musicians that come on there. And you know what they do? They play for the people, because the people that are involved with the Rock and Roll Fantasy Camp, they're all living their lives vicariously through us. So how cool is it to be in a band with your favorite guys and play for 3 days and then go up on stage and get a chance to do a show in front of a packed out audience of rock and roll and metal enthusiasts? It's a great thing. That's amazing. Very cool. Well, thank you so much for doing this. I'll let you get back to your busy schedule because it sounds like it's very busy. So, Chuck, I appreciate you talking to me. Well, let's do it again sometime. Okay. Okay. Sounds good. All right. A quick shout out to all our military, our doctors, our police, nurses, the local drug dealer across the street from 7-Eleven. Be safe, all of you. All right. Thanks, Chip. See you later. Thanks, buddy. I'll see you, buddy. Bye. Bye-bye. What a great guy. Fun to chat with. Sounds like he's real busy with a lot of stuff. So make sure to follow Chip and Enuff Z'Nuff on social media. Their website is in the show notes. And that way you can keep track of all the stuff he's got coming out. And as always, I'll remind you to follow me on social media, like and share things, comment, write a review. All those things will help me out a lot. And many of you are already doing this, and I really appreciate that. So thank you for listening and making it all the way to the end of this episode. Have a great day, and remember to shoot for the moon.